So welcome everybody. Today we are going to be talking about the 6 steps on how to forgive and let go of grudges. Big topic, very popular topic. But I want to get started. I want to start off with grudges itself and like why do we hold them, and then I'll get into why forgiveness is important and 6 steps on how to actually start to try to forgive somebody. So I'm assuming if you're here, the reason is that you might be someone that's has struggled with holding grudges, or you want to learn more about how to forgive people. I don't know. You're just, well, there might be interested, or you're just interested that maybe in the future, just in case, uh, it's you want to learn how to forgive somebody. But for me, a big piece of the puzzle for my healing had to do with forgiveness and recognizing that I can hold a grudge, and that basically eats away at me. And I was trying to think of what that Chinese proverb is. It's like when you experience somebody's anger or whatever, and it's like drinking poison, and it actually really affects you and that type of stuff. So grudges really affect your health mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so we do this as a state of protection. It's typically, I'll say trauma response, but it's a way that your nervous system responds in a way when you feel invalidated and whatnot. So we'll get into that a little bit. But what's important to understand about grudges is that the research has shown, like, it's not just me saying that, yeah, grudges, eat away at you. It's kind of like a cancer, if you will. But research has shown that it is harmful to your health. And the thing is that grievances are not linear. They're not just like, yeah, somebody hurt me and this is what's happening. It's a cyclical event. So there's typically, I'll call it the original incident. So something, I guess I'll use the word traumatizing, may have happened to you where you didn't feel seen, heard, or felt, or like they didn't understand how you felt in that situation. Okay, so the whole thing with this is really understanding, like, to me, the big umbrella, the reason you're holding a grudge is because you didn't feel seen by the person and they really matter to you. You didn't feel heard by the person because you love them and they care for you. So that sort of thing. Or they didn't understand how you were feeling in this. They don't understand how you feel. So they're not actually listening to you and really giving you the support that you need. So that's really the big reason why we tend to hold grudges. But it's also, it's because you needed validation. So it could happen when you're a child or even as an adult. You needed to be validated in that you weren't validated in your experience. There's moral superiority. Like, another reason why is that there's moral superiority, whatever, however you say that. Why do you hold on to a grudge is also, it's your inability to let go. You can't, because you just keep ruminating about it, right? So when we have it, we're like, let's say you're someone that does hold grudges. It's basically the person on the receiving end. So you're the person that you had this feeling of inadequacy or invalidation, or you weren't seen, heard, or felt, or whatever. Those feelings of inadequacy, then basically it's like, how could you like start ruminating, like, how could this person do this to me? Like, they're supposed to love me, they're supposed to care for me, they're supposed to, treat me like a human and not treat me like garbage. And this leads to then validation seeking experience. So then what do? If you feel like, how could they treat me like that? It's like, I shared a story yesterday about my husband and I, of what happened with my mentorship group. And just what we tend to do when we feel wronged is that we go tell the story to someone else, right? We go recount the story to someone else to say, hey, am I right in feeling this way? Am I right in experiencing this, feeling off? And like, should I really be angry about the situation? Right? So then you're like, you're recounting it, and those people are like, oh my God, yeah, you're right, and then you tend to ruminate over the event, like, how should I respond in that situation? What should have I have done? And then you basically start justifying the resentment, and that's where grudge really comes from, is that you start like, yeah, I was wronged, and then you just start thinking about all the situations in your life where you were wronged, and you just hold on to that, right? And that thought, those emotions get stuck in our body, right? And that's where I often talk about trauma being stuck in our bodies, and it's these emotions that tend to get stuck inside of us that we're like, what do we do with them, right? It's that negativity, and then we hold it onto ourselves because we don't know what to do and how to process these emotions. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So then basically this leads to, a grudge. And then when we have a grudge, what happens with that person that we felt wronged by? What typically happens is that we usually like cut them off. We don't see them. We just secretly say mean things about them or whatever, right? It turns into a lot of negativity in our life, and it affects our future decisions and on our how we trust other people, and it's just a snowball effect, right? So the idea is, what we want to do is letting go of a grudge. What's important to understand is letting go of a grudge is not the same as it's letting go of a grudge is not the same experience as forgiveness. Okay, so you can like let go of the grudge, but walking through the process of forgiveness, it takes a little bit more effort. Okay, so it's like, yeah, I'm like, that person wronged me, and you move on with your life, right? Something like, sometimes depending on who it is. So it's important to understand is that to release the deepest grudges, you have to be able to forgive. And this is really, really hard, because sometimes if you've been wronged by a parent, let's say, or somebody that really matters to you, and they may be still alive today, or they may be passed on, that forgiveness can be hard to come by. But it's really, forgiveness is not about them, it's about you. And that's something that you're going to have to, like, we're going to talk about more, but really understanding that forgiveness is looking in the mirror and you going through a process. So it's a decision that you make to replace the negative judgments of what happened in that situation. Also, yes, exactly. Self-forgiveness. Absolutely. So it's not about the person or situation. It's really about understanding, having awareness of what you actually felt, and bringing those emotions, and like, I felt wrong because I wasn't heard, or I felt wrong because I wasn't seen, or I felt wrong because they don't understand where I'm coming from, right? Because we have different perspectives. And I think, if you get into politics and whatnot, you really see some contrast there, and then people just get angry, and relationships just get ruined, and people hurt each other because they are so passionate about a certain thing, and they're like, well, you're just wrong. Well, you're just wrong. And then it just creates this havoc and this dysregulation. And we want to be able to take a pause and take a step back from the situation and look at, what can I do to help me feel better and to heal from this situation, right? What do I need to feel seen? What are you saying here? Because they can't love me or choose not to, right? So that's where it's hard, because especially if it's a parent, like, why don't they love me? What am I doing wrong? Right? What's wrong with me that they would think that, like, we would have such a disagreement, or they would treat me this way? Those are definitely thoughts. But the thing is that the more often that it's kind of like a cycle habit. So, like, you had that belief, that belief didn't just show up. It's like, you had to have an experience, you had to have an emotion. And then if you experience that emotion over and over again, what happens is that it turns into a belief. And that's really what happens, is that it's a cycle. And that's why holding grudges is a cycle, is that it starts with a sensation. So that's why a lot of the work that I do to really heal your trauma, it's really important to understand the sensations in your body, which is stuff I talk about in other chats. Okay, so let's dive right in. Are there any questions about grudges? You all agree with what I'm saying? Basically, you're like, yeah, there's somebody that, there's someone that you can think about. So I want you to, like, before we get into the 6 steps, I want you to think about, who's somebody that I may be holding a grudge against, and that may be affecting my healing, maybe affecting my health, maybe affecting how I live my life. So we're going to put these 6 steps and see what we can do to help you move forward with that person. So it's easier if you have, like, somebody in mind. But the first step to help you understand help you forgive is to understand. It's really to bring awareness to understand, like, you can't forgive someone fully until you understand what happened. You need to understand, is it because I wasn't feeling heard? Is it because I wasn't seen? Like, what's the underlying emotion? What is the emotion that is the anchor to this grudge? Okay. So you need to do the work to understand that. So you need to try to figure out, why did they hurt you? They hurt you because it's somebody that you love. It's somebody you care about. So your heart breaks, when somebody wrongs you, especially if it's blood, right? In particular. So it's really important to understand, like, what am I feeling? What am I feeling in this? And like, how much is at stake at this point, right? So, because as I share a lot of times, it's okay to feel all of the emotions. It's okay to feel abandonment. It's okay to feel upset or hurt or frustrated or angry. These are actually important things to feel in the healing process. Like, it's okay to feel wronged. It's just holding on to it that can be damaging, right? So like I say, like polyvagal theory, like when we go the trauma informed perspective, the idea is that you can be in a sympathetic nervous system state, or you can be in a dorsal nervous system state. But the key is either of them are both, a lot of people, they're both safe as long as you can come out of it. And how do you come out of it? Well, we have to hold hands with green, which is basically bring in the social engagement. How do I connect with myself and other people to help me feel safe at the end of the day? Okay. So the idea is that all feelings are welcome. They're all warranted. It's not trying to avoid those emotions or avoid feeling abandonment or grudges or, sorrow or grief or whatever. You're allowed to feel all that. But you need to bring understanding to what those emotions are. Okay. Is that cool? You're like, oh my God, that's a lot of work. It is. And so this is why you join groups or you hire a coach, because it's hard work to do on your own, because it's like my brain speaks English and my body speaks German. Well, how am I going to translate this? Right. And so that's a part. So you already speak like 12 languages, and that's fantastic. But what your body's saying and what your mind is saying are not connecting. And so this is where we need to start connecting that to understand why you're holding on to this grudge. Okay. So that's part of that. So the next one is number 2. You may not like this, but put yourself in their shoes. So a lot of times, like you've probably heard this, it's very cliche, but hurt people, right? And so this is something that's been coming up for my kids, that people who are in pain and, may not know better, why, they're hurting. And that's why, like, bullying and all that kind of stuff, and narcissism and all that kind of stuff, like people who respond in that type of, when they behave that way, they're doing that as a response because of how they felt and they didn't know how to process those emotions. Sometimes if we understand, we still hold a grudge. Absolutely. That's possible. But the thing is, it's learning how to let go then. So you can understand. So again, awareness brings understanding, but now understanding has a choice. So now, if you have an understanding of why they do it, you have a choice. You can hold on to it, or you can choose to let it go. Right? And so that's where a lot of times it actually feels safer for you to hold on to it than for you to let it go. Because it still keeps you tied to that person, because you have so much love and you have so much connection to that person, because they mean so much to you. They're very high on the connection wheel for you, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? So the thing is, again, like, so once you have that understanding, you now have a choice. I can hold on to it, or I can choose to let go. And that's a hard part, right? So that's why how to help you let go, and a choice you have, is to put yourself in their shoes. Why, you could do the why me and this whole bit, but it's all based on emotions, right? It's all about putting yourself in their shoes. So learning an important lesson and deepening your understanding can help you understand the issue without despising those who wrong you. So it's really, it's bad things happen to good people, unfortunately. And that's because there's emotions involved. And I don't know, about 300 years ago, some white guy said, the brain and body are separate, and we're not really supposed to talk about what happens in the body. They're not, emotions don't matter. Nature versus nurture. If you look at that, nature has taught us if we actually feel, you die. So nurturing is a little bit different. So learning how to, understand, like, if your parent's the one that wronged you, or, that you felt you're holding a grudge against, It could be because they didn't know how to nurture you. They didn't know because they weren't nurtured. And so that's the whole thing with epigenetics and passing on trauma and whatnot. So what you want to do is just try to put yourself and understand that people do things when they're hurt. That if you're hurt and somebody made you feel hurt, it's probably because they were hurting first, right? And it's kind of like this whole cycle. So having that awareness of hurt people hurt people. Okay, so they did that because look at their situation. So take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So that's number 2. Number 3 is taking responsibility for the situation. So understanding that you are responsible for what you're experiencing. It's your body. It's your own experiencing, your own experience. So understand that you have sensations. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own experience. And we may all experience grudges, but feel differently in that grudge. Okay. So all that, my dog wants out. All that energy and effort is going to be used and felt in different places of your body. So for any of you who have explored grudge, holding a grudge, does anybody know where you hold that sensation of holding a grudge in your body? You can just gut. Okay. Feel in your gut. Anyone else? No? Maybe? Yeah. Heart, solar plexus, jaw. Okay, great. So you have that awareness of where you're holding on to that, right? So you notice.
I'm sorry, my chest is every time I feel my chest. I think near my heart. Yeah.
Okay.
It's there. It's like a tight. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So my point is, there's, I don't know how many of you all said something different. Some of you said gut, one of you said solar plexus, heart, chest, stomach, gut, jaw. We all say the same word. It's grudge, but we all feel it differently. Right? And that's what's important to understand, is that your body responds in different ways. So so you have to take responsibility for your own body. It's like, this is what I'm naming this is what it is. And I'm going to take responsibility for moving that energy out of my body, because I know it's not serving me in a way, or it is serving you in a way. It's keeping you safe. Because we know when you feel that grudge, so that tension, or how would you describe the feeling of a grudge? How would you describe that in those locations? What does it feel? How would you describe the sensation? Tension. Okay.
Constriction.
Good. Shrinking. A knot. Tightness.
Ancient.
What is that, Tiffany?
Ancient, like a very ancient, like
anxious. Okay. Yes. That's an emotion, but that's an emotion. So sensations are more like it's heat, like inflexibility. It's a little bit different. It's an actual heat, buzzing, so burning sensation. So see how we all experience the sensations a little bit different?
Like my body shaking.
Great.
Shaking, yeah.
Great, absolutely, like vibration.
Only to hear the name or see in my mind, her face is like I start crunching I tighten my jaw. It's like a tight as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the idea is, because you have that awareness of the sensations and where you have it in your body, what you need to do is understand the responsibility of what you need to do is nurture that part of your body. That's how you're going to start taking responsibility of what does that part of you need when you feel that, what can you do to nurture that part? Okay. What sensations can you offer yourself? So if you said shaking, heat, vibration, inflexibility, when you feel that in your body, what can you do to help it feel safe again, or feel connected, or feel loved, or feel accepted, or feel seen or heard? Does that make sense? So that's how we start taking our power back and not letting them take our flame, like tame our flame or blow out your flame, right? Because that grudge is basically eating you away. So we don't want to let that we don't want that to affect your health anymore in a negative way. Okay. Next one, number 4, is look at the positive side of things. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you have a choice. Once you have that understanding, you have a choice. You can keep holding on to it. And that's your choice, or you can look at the positive side of it. There's always a yin and a yang. There's a 50-50. That's how the body works, right? So, instead of getting upset about the whole situation, try to treat it as a lesson. It's an invaluable lesson in how, I think, who said that? I think it was Amra. You mentioned it before, that holding on, like sometimes you invest all the energy possible in making sure you don't hurt others. Absolutely. And so that's where, like a lot of times when we've been wronged by our parents, when you become a parent yourself, you don't treat your children the same way, because you're like, I don't want them to feel that. So we really work hard to not let other people feel the way we do. Right. And so that's where it's like, how can that's why I like sharing, being kind and being whatever, like being helpful and being caring, like all of you, like if you've been working with me for a minute or whatnot, like most of you know what your purpose is in life. And if you don't know what your purpose is in life, then that's something that we need to explore, because when you are able to understand that your purpose in life, when most people don't know what their purpose in life, the answer typically is, I'm here to help people, right? You're here to serve others in some way, shape, or form. So when we focus on how we show up for ourselves first, that allows us to focus on more positive energy. It allows us to understand, like, this person is vibrating at a lower energy, but they don't need to drag me down. As much as I love them and as much as I care for them, you have to love yourself first. You have to live your purpose first. Does that make sense? So for instance, for me, my purpose right now is connection. Connection and curiosity are my two. The connection is connection to myself, and curiosity is how I show up for the world. So the reason that most of you are connecting with me, and the reason you're probably watching this, is because you're interested and you're curious about learning how to forgive and how to let go of grudges, right? You're curious. That's why you showed up today. So my gift to the world is people who are curious about connecting with their body and letting go of trauma and healing. They're going to show up. I'm going to show up in their lives in some way, shape, or form, right? So that's my purpose. So for me, for my grudge, where I was able to start letting go of my grudges, is that because I'm living my purpose of connecting with me first, I'm able to vibrate at a higher level. I'm able to look at the positive side of things. I'm not dwelling on the negative and all the hurt. Does that make sense? Because I'm connecting to me. Cool. Number 5, this could be hard for some of you, because if the person's dead, you're not going to be able to do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do this. Is confront the other person. Is to actually talk to them about how you felt in that situation. There's always a possibility that a grudge can result in a misunderstanding. So it could be a communication breakdown, straight up. Just, they didn't know that they hurt you. And then it just, like, you stop talking to that person. They may know that they hurt you. I don't know. But it really comes down to clarifying how you felt in that situation, right? That's part of like what you can do. Absolutely. Write a letter, and you don't have to send it. You can, burn it if you wanted to. There's definitely different things. You could journal, however you want to process that. But yes, there's definitely ways that you can confront them if you don't feel safe around them, confronting them face to face. Then there are definitely, you can communicate with them however you feel safe enough to do so. At the end of the day, it comes down to you need to make sure that you're regulated first before you do it. You don't want to do it from a dysregulated place. You don't want to do it from a place of hurt. You're literally coming at it from a place of, self-love, self-compassion. Like, I'm showing up for myself, and I'm sharing this because this is how I felt in this situation. Very, very hard to do. So this is why we do some of the work. So last week we talked about mirror work, and the week before that we talked about inner child. So all of the talks that I'm offering week to week kind of blend in together, because they're all pieces of the puzzle that'll help you ultimately get to this place of, forgiveness and healing and connection that you're looking for, because you're able to practice feeling seen and feeling seen and feeling heard as well. They were hurt by the same things, but they still choose to do the same things that hurt them and others. That's right. And that's because people deflect, because they don't actually look in, right? A lot of people, they may be very aware that, that they're creating chaos for somebody, or they are a toxic person, and the narcissistic person or a parent or something like that, I look at that, and so oftentimes they are aware because it makes them feel better, but it's because they're not willing to do the work to actually heal themselves, right? So that's where at the end of the day, you have to take a look at, that's why, like, again, your safety and your connection and your love and your self-compassion for yourself is what matters first. Okay. You have to address you first. It's not about them, it's about you. Okay. If you haven't done the work to do that yet, then confronting them is probably not the best thing to do yet. Right. So we want to take the time and put the work in first to show, to get yourself regulated. Write it down and burn it. Absolutely. That's what I did. That was a big piece of the puzzle for me. Just write it down, and you have a whole ceremony and the whole bit if you want. Right. Yeah. So then number 6 is forgive and let go. So this is where you get to choose. So you get to decide to be the bigger person and forgive them. And it's like, it's no longer serving you to hold that negative energy within you. So you can stop dwelling over what happened in the past. And it's really, honestly, it comes down to a choice. You get to choose the energy in which you want to live with. Like this person, absolutely, you can agree. Like, that's why you can just like hold on to that grudge. But forgiving them is really, you make a promise to yourself not to bring it up again. Like, it can be part of your history. Like for me, for my forgiveness is like, it's part of who I am today, but it's part of my story. And I don't, like, I can bring it up, but it doesn't affect me. I don't hold those negative emotions. I'm not letting those negative emotions take hold of my life anymore. That's a choice that I'm making, is that this person wronged me, but I'm not gonna have a relationship with them. I can choose that, or I can choose to have a relationship with them on my terms. It's based on what my needs are, because I've done the work, because I understand what I feel, those sensations feel like in my body. It's on my terms, and that's how I show up. And that's a choice that you have. So this is where, like, if you want to discuss how they hurt you with someone, you can definitely do that. Go to talk to, that's why therapy is phenomenal for that type of work. But for me, forgiveness really happens in the body. It's really recognizing the sensations that I experience and naming it, and being able to let it go. So writing it down is a fantastic way. Any somatic practice that you want to, that helps you feel safe, friends and community absolutely are a fantastic way to do that. But like somatic, it's about moving your body. It's about doing something, doing action. So with intention, right? So we want to, like, if you want to have a dance party and just like let it go, like whatever, like the burning bra, whatever you need to do. I've seen some people like burn their photos of the person or whatever. It's not like, we don't want to project any negative emotions. It's more about what I need to do to let go. What type of somatic practice do you need to do for you to help you let go? So if it's yoga, if it's Pilates, if it's CrossFit, if it's running a marathon, if it's triathlons, if it's deep breathing, if it's meditation, if it's going for a walk in the woods, whatever you're going to, if it's dancing in a choreographed way or a freestyle way or whatever, the idea is you want to let go with action. So if you're going to write it out, if you're going to talk it out, if you want to create art, right? So when we talk about healing trauma, it's about putting action in play. We want to do something with the body. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. So forgiveness is for you. Like I said before, it does not mean that you will have to forget the incident. It's part of your DNA. It's part of who you are at this point. Like you said, you can learn from it. And it simply means that you have accepted this disparity and you've acknowledged the hurt. You've acknowledged, not feeling seen, heard, or felt, and that you can move forward for there. And people do make mistakes at the end of the day. So, it's not easy. Hence why we're here, really, at the end of the day. It's definitely worth it in the end, because it's like taking a load off, like when you feel that grudge. Yes, absolutely, Christine. When you like that grudge tends to be very heavy, right? It's very, like you just described, like all of you described different sensations in your body, that tension, that inflexibility, that heat, That's a lot of sensations for you to hold on to for a long time. So it's just a matter of allowing yourself the space to be able to let go of that and shed that armor, shed that piece of heaviness that's dragging you down, because it's like an anchor. So are you letting how they treated you affect the way you're going to choose to live the rest of your life? So it is a choice, right? So because you're listening to this, now you know there are things that you can do for yourself. So it's like, now that you know, you can't unknow it. So it's like, now I have to do something with it, right? So if you choose to sit with the grief and you choose to like hold that negativity on, that's your choice. That's your right. You're like, I feel better. I feel safer holding on to this tension. Great. That's your choice. I'm not going to take that away from you. I just feel for someone who has released some grudges and has been able to let go, it's extremely freeing. And for me, my back pain like basically went away a lot. Like I haven't had a back issue, and I didn't know that my back pain was linked to holding on to that tension. Absolutely. I'm giving you permission to let go. I am. Yay, that is. I'm giving you all permission to let go of any of the wrongdoing and the miscommunication that you may have experienced, because we've all had it at the end of the day. I mean, we're human. This is part of it. Like no one's perfect. It's just simply like at the end of the day, I'm giving you I'm giving you the opportunity to choose to move on and heal and focus on you, because many of us felt disempowered and felt alone and felt abandoned, and those are all okay. But I'm here to say that, I show up every week to connect with all of you, to give you that space for you not to lean into the opposite of feeling abandoned, to feel connected, to co-regulate, to feel loved, and to feel worthy, and to feel like you're enough, because you are. And a lot of times we just need to hear it, sometimes a little bit more than never. For some of us, unfortunately, right? Some of us just don't hear it enough. And like my son told me last night, he's like, Dad never says I love you. I'm like, yeah, he does. He's like, no, I don't remember the last time. So then I told my husband, he's like, love you, buddy. So it's like, sometimes you think like he's older, and sometimes you don't think the older kids need to hear it, but we all need to hear it, right? I'm like, I'm in my 40s and I still need to hear my mom say it, and my dad, right? So that's why I do podcasts. So there you go. So that's how I know he loves me, because he's sharing that space for me, right? So I'm creating the space because I'm healing. I'm creating the space for people who I felt have wronged me. And so that's where it's just a matter of like lean into those feelings of whatever the sensations of what a grudge feels like. Lean into that. I'm like, don't avoid it, lean into it. And this is how we do that. And so we lean into it by forgiving ourselves, right? So forgiveness is honestly, it's a solitary and conscious process. It's really about you, and you get to choose what to do with it. Like I've said that a bazillion times. So I think you have to hear about 7 times for your brain to connect. So I've said it 7 times, enough times. I don't know. Yes. Celia, thank you. Yeah, so then all I want, like, just to finish off, is that to truly forgive someone, you have to decide that it's the emotional deep work, and that's what makes it hard. So a lot of us, it's easier not to do the emotion work, so that's why we hold on to it. So the question is, are you ready to do the emotion piece to help you let go? Cool. It's not waiting for a validation. Yeah, exactly. It's recognizing that you may never get the validation, but it's about the validation for yourself, Christine. That's really what matters right now, as much as you want it from somebody else, because we tend to rely on other people's to make us feel certain ways. So we want to, we need to do the work to help you feel validated. Who are the people that help you feel validated, right? If that's the main word, if that's, the main thing. So absolutely, we need to hear it on a regular. Absolutely, we haven't been told enough. Sometimes our nervous systems, you need to hear it, like I just said, you need to hear it 7 times a day. Sometimes it's like hugging. They say, like 1 hug a day is good, whatever, it's okay. But to really get the oxytocin release, I think, what is it, like 12 hugs a day, right? To get that sometimes we need 12 hugs a day. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember reading that a long time ago, and I'm like, there's no freaking way. How am I gonna hug somebody 12 times in a day?
My
Woo!
poor dog. She gets abused
I
with
know,
hugs.
right? Right. Right. But that's why I'm like, well, we had 3 baby bunnies in a week ago. So I'm like, if you want to come to my farm, hug a tree, absolutely, or have baby bunnies. They're the best. They're so cute. The ears. Oh my God. It's the best. It's a fantastic oxytocin release, I gotta say. Absolutely. And it's like 30-second hugs. No, actually, just so you know, it's more like 50 to 90-second hugs. That's the sweet spot. A 50 to 90-second hug, because it takes about 90 seconds to process an emotion. So if you really want the oxytocin release, I know that feels awkward. It does. That's why you have to practice. That's why you have to do it 12 times a day.
I'm gonna have to work her up to 90 seconds of letting me hug her.
Absolutely. But imagine just like there's a Instagram whatever somebody talking about hugging, and why is it so important to hug, because when you come together your hearts make one, because one, like, you're completing each other, right? There's one on the left, so when you hug each other there's one on the left and the right, so you complete the whole energy cycle. So spending time with that will allow you to release that oxytocin and get that energy shifts. And knowing on a physiological perspective for emotions, it takes, like I said, 90 seconds for you to release. But I know from a neural perspective, it takes about 50 seconds for the brain to be like, hi. So it's important to understand that, hey, I'm here. So that's why, like, lifting weights is important. If you want your brain to know what you're doing, you need about 50 seconds worth of time under tension. So hug people for about 50 seconds. So time it next time. Okay, we're gonna do this and see how it feels. Like, it's like doing your thumbs, like cross your thumbs like this and then flip it. You're like, oh my God, that's bizarre. Same thing. Put in the reps, right? If you want to forgive and learn to feel those things, let's put in the reps, right? Hang out with people and share your voice and use it and show up and be seen. Like me, show up on Instagram and dance, even if you don't have a flipping clue how to dance. You do it to put in the rep. Right. And that's where it's like, what do you need for you to be validated, to feel validated? What do you need to, experience? And what's the action you need to experience for you to feel whatever it is you're looking to feel? Does that make sense? I'm getting my timer out. Yeah, absolutely. Do it. Just see how weird it may feel. Like, start at 50 seconds, go to 90 seconds, whatever. And like, just try it. Just try it. It might feel awkward, but then next thing you know, it gets better. Like, that's why massages are so good. Like in massage school, that's why they taught us to hug the right side. Absolutely. It closes the connection. It connects your heart. Absolutely. That's why hugs are so important. Right. So the pressure, all that kind of stuff, like, that's up to you. But if you really want to be able to forgive, it really, again, it starts with you. So there's different things that you can do for that. And that's the cool part, right? Oh, thank you, Amanda. Putting in the reps. Exactly. It's not just a workout. It's the emotional reps, right? For you to connect with you, or whatever your purpose is at the end of the day. Right. And that's really why I keep showing up every week, is to give you that space to be able to do that. I have to read that out loud. Okay. So Amanda said that you are such an amazing coach with all things, Julie, putting in the reps, not just the workouts, but for life. This is why I love these spaces with all of you. Yay. I'm like, my heart. I'm giving you a big 90-second hug, Amanda. I'm like, I'm gonna fly just to see you, just to give you a 90-second hug. I'm swear to God, if I see any of you in person, I'm gonna give you a 90-second hug. That is the most awkward thing for me, because I'm not a hugger. Well, I used to not be a hugger. I'm getting better. I hug my children. That's about it. And my husband. You'll come here. Okay. Still too hot there, eh? Oh, you can come see the fall colors. It's beautiful. Everything is shifting here. Everything's new season is upon us. So it's a new season. It's a new season for you. Shed the grief and start to forgive. This is your invitation. Absolutely. We're going to do a meetup. I promise. All right. So are there any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns? I'm going to stop the recording at this point, and then we go from there.